Okay, I'm hoping this works. Okay, there we go. Well, hi everybody. I'm Heather Joy. This is my very first video on this channel, and this is a special day because I have these two wonderful gentlemen. I've got Mark Wages here on the top next to me, and right below us is Tommy Scoville, and they are from the Lifeboat channel. And then Mark also has Wages World that he does too. All the things that are going on with the sun. He does such a good job of presenting that and helping us understand what's going on. So, but the lifeboat, a couple of weeks ago, I started a new, well, 2 months ago maybe. Anyway, I started a new job. And I'm a nurse and I'm a recovering addict. And I had chosen to not practice nursing anymore so I wouldn't have to work around the drugs because, my drug of choice is prescription narcotics. Um, these guys the lifeboat just popped up on my YouTube feed about the same time that I started a job. And it's exactly what I needed, because as addicts, we all struggle, especially when we are around the things that we used to enjoy. Well, not enjoy anymore, but the things that were destroying our lives, it's still
Sure.
a temptation. And here they were, the feed. And I have to tell you, the lifeboat, there's something special. There really is. There's something very special about these guys. I've never seen or felt in any other media what I've seen and felt with these guys. And everyone, the whole crew on the boat, everybody that comes into chat. I mean, it's so welcoming. And they are really, for addicts, they are offering a true source of hope and light. And I really want to thank you both for coming on and for being so patient. I've had all kinds of technical things that I have never done this before, and we tried to do it the other day, and I couldn't pull it off. But these guys have been very patient, and I thank both of you for coming on. Um,
Happy to be here.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, I live for this kind of stuff, to be honest with you.
Yep.
It's awesome to be able to share.
well,
And we're proud of you on a couple of fronts. I mean, first of all, uh, honestly, I've got about 7 years in. I think Mark's at 11, right? So,
Yep.
but with 18 years between us, I don't think either of us would be able to take on the challenge of what you do. So my hat's off to you for that, and for starting a channel. The more of these that get started, the more that we use this platform to help people, the better. So we're really happy you're doing this.
well,
Yes.
I am too. The purpose. I'm going to have kind of a jumbled up channel at times because this is one of the important things I want to talk about is maintaining sobriety. But I have fibromyalgia, and just lots of chronic pain, and that causes all kinds of issues. And it's been, good grief, maybe 6 years now that I've lived with it, and I've learned a lot about how to deal with chronic pain. And so that's another purpose for my channel is I want to share the things that I've learned.
Awesome.
But
I think it kind of plays hand in hand. When you got
yeah,
pain and you're trying to deal with an addiction that probably came from your pain. To be honest with you, a lot of us,
hmm
that's how it was for me.
yeah,
We started taking the pain pills. That was me. That's a lot of people's story. It really is.
yeah,
What a tough ailment too.
Yeah.
Fibromyalgia is just, it's not very well understood. We have actually a lot of people on the boat that suffer from fibromyalgia. It leads a lot of people down the road that
mhm,
led you down.
Yeah. It definitely is
yeah,
something that we take as much of advice as we give, and that's the
mhm,
God's honest truth. Probably more. I think we get a lot more out of what you guys say to us than what we could ever say because
No question.
we got some
well,
life experience. We got a lot of book knowledge too, is what I call it. Because we just been in it for so freaking long, you know. And I think it helps to
yeah,
have, I don't know, maybe a newer viewpoint sometimes. It just somebody that's just now stepping out and you're able to share what you got, and it really does make a big difference in people's lives. Me and Tommy have seen it firsthand. It really.
And the number of people that we talk to that suffer from fibromyalgia, and like Mark said, you know what, we can read about it all day long, but that's the extent of our understanding. As much as you try to understand anything through a book, I understand that the addiction part of it, I really do. But
Yeah.
the one of the craziest things I ever heard is I knew a girl that I worked with for a long time who was addicted to drugs, and then later on in life, after actually getting sober, she came down with fibromyalgia, and she described the feeling of fibromyalgia like being dope sick. And to me, that is just such a terrifying thing, to have an ailment that feels like, you're going through that even when you're not. I can't,
Yeah.
I honestly can't imagine that.
Well, I'm able to control mine a lot better now. I don't have so many flares, and when I do, they're bearable. Where it used to be, it would just wipe me out completely. I'd just lay in bed and cry. It's been, but there's a lot of things that you can do to make it bearable and make it better. And I really want to share that.
Do you think some of that is the brain working you over? And what I mean by that is when I've broken everything, and 32 surgeries and all of that. But when I was active, like when I first quit, probably the first 2 years, everything hurt. And I think that during that time, a lot of that was my brain just trying to get me to do dope again. After a couple of years of working on the brain part of it, I'm like you. I have certain times a year, certain things, I'll get flare-ups, knees really bad, because I've had so many knee surgeries. But I think in the beginning, I was having a difficult time figuring out what was being caused by the fact that I wasn't doing drugs, and what was the actual pain. Those lines kind of got blurred. Is it the same kind of thing?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. And I know a lot of my pain comes from it. Your body stores emotions. It stores stress. It stores memories. And,
Absolutely.
The home that I grew up in, we were, very religious, very strict, and had great parents. But, everybody has their issues. And it was a difficult for me growing up in there. There was a lot of verbal abuse, and it was tough, and so I have had depression ever since I can remember. When I was a kid, I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know what, but I knew I didn't think about the same things, and I didn't feel the same as everybody else that, my friends. Um, and it's just, your body can only take so much, before it breaks down. And I think that's a lot of what fibromyalgia, where it starts, is when you have issues that you either don't deal with or can't deal with. Over time, it really does take a toll, because there's an interconnection between your body and your soul, and
Wow.
there's no way to escape it.
I think you're hitting on a lot of great points there.
Boy, I'm telling you.
Yeah, it's emotions, guys, and I hate to use a wages world analogy here, but I oftentimes say energy in means energy out. So if you're having pain and you're having painful emotions, there's a reason why they call it painful, because it can actually induce physical pain.
Yeah.
Whether that's a mental thing or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It still makes you feel like that. And, and I have nothing but respect for people that choose the road that you have, and that's to attack this pain without the addiction. And that's something that I had to, kind of overcome myself. And believe me, I've said this so many times, I've never relapsed. And that's hard for some people to kind of wrap their brain around, because the numbers, stats are so stacked against it. But if you knew my wife, if you knew my family, you would never ever even ask me that question. And that's really what me and Tommy are trying to do with the channel, I think, is try to provide that, at least at some level, for people that don't have that support like I have.
Yeah.
and we've turned into each other's support like immediately. We were talking about that before we came on. It helps to talk to somebody that you don't have to explain how the drug works, or you don't have to explain what it's doing to you, because all you have to do is say, "Hey, I'm going through some withdrawal here. Here's my symptoms. You got any advice?" That's it. That's all you have to say to him. And I mean, he'll come back, or I'll come back with him with something, and we've kind of. What I'm trying to say is the answer isn't always the same to the same problem. You might experience
it's hardly
the problem
ever the same.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah.
If you got 100 people, you're going to have that. But the common thread, I think that what you said that I really hope everybody hears is that how much of what you feel physically is tied to not just emotions, because I think everybody believes that. And I think it's accepted, but I think it also is tied to the soul, the spiritual aspects of it and all of that. If you can be in a pretty good place mentally and not in a good place spiritually. And I'm not trying to shove religion or anything down anyone's throat. I never do that. But I remember a time where right after I quit, I was in prison and I was chemical free, and I had been for probably a year, and I was making strides. Like I got to a point where I really felt like, mentally I was in the game. I knew what I was doing, and I was still just miserable, and I couldn't, figure out exactly what was missing. And once you get the three of them, the thing that I always yell about is when you talk about a painkiller, if you broke your leg and a painkiller goes in, the painkiller goes right to the leg, does exactly what it's supposed to. Well, if there's no pain and the painkiller goes in there, well, it looks for spiritual pain, it looks for emotional pain, it looks for pain from your past, and it removes all of that. And it's so easy to get, hooked in there, because all of a sudden it's like all of those things that you've been trying to work on, they're done. And that is the fastest road to addiction in the world. And today, the number, believe it or not, and I don't want to take over this whole show, but today I went to Walmart to buy coffee, and I park it. I'm such a creature of habit. I park in the same place every time I come in, right? Been there 100 times. I park in one of 3 spots. And today they were all taken. So I went to way over on a different part, and I thought, I'll park closer to the door. And I parked next to a truck. And when I got out, the girl sitting in the driver's side of the truck had her head down like this, and her lips were blue. Yeah, I banged on the glass, and I couldn't wake her. And the door was locked. And I gave it one of these with my elbow, and I couldn't break it. I hit it as hard as I could. And when I looked over, the latch on the other side was up. So I ran around to the other side of the truck, but I called 911. Good. And what the reason I bring this up is they came and gave her Narcan, and one shot of Narcan brought her back, which is lovely because it doesn't always work that way anymore. But she was smoking it. And for the longest time in my life, you didn't have to worry about somebody smoking. Like they'd go to sleep, but you never had to worry about this. And this girl was in full blown lips blue, sternum rubs, slapping her and the 911, it took 17 minutes from the time that I called for the fire truck to show up. And I just sat in this truck. I know anybody walking by was like, what the hell is this guy doing? You know what I mean? Because I was in there slapping her and doing sternum rubs. And on the bright side, they got to her in time. She was not very happy with me when they got to her, because if you've ever seen Narcan bring somebody back,
they're mad.
They get really angry really, really quickly. And the worst part is I dropped my keys in her truck. So when I came back out of Walmart and I was shaking, I called my mother. I just said, "You're not going to believe this." But when I came back out, I went to get my car keys. And I'm like, oh, crap. So I went back into Walmart, couldn't find my keys. I had them calling around, and I thought, you know what? I went back out, and they were on the floorboard of her truck. But This is the first time in the history of man where trying to kill pain and trying to self-medicate so that you're not so uncomfortable in your own skin stands a really good chance of killing you, So what you're doing is huge. And the insight that you have at this point, I don't know, it took me a lot longer than it took you. I'll tell you what.
I don't know about that. I mean, I've been going, it's been almost 14 years for me.
Oh, really?
So that's a lot of time. That's a lot of time to figure out some of that stuff. But I'm always still learning. And I'm learning so much from you guys. But
Oh, thanks.
that lady that you saved today, wow, is she lucky?
Yeah.
I was going
Wow.
to say the same thing. That if
That's,
if you think about that, guys, how that had to play out in real life. It was very real for Tommy, but he
If my
was,
parking space was not taken, she'd be
yeah,
dead. I
she would be
promise.
dead. And here's the other thing: if you were never an addict, she'd be dead.
Right.
You see
yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because we just you would look over at her and think, well, she's just sleeping, and you keep moving.
And I'll tell
But
you
because
something. Go get some Narcan. Right?
Yeah.
If you're hearing
I,
this, because I will never not have Narcan in my car again. Like that is never going to happen to me because I just sat there going, how of all people on the planet do I not have Narcan? You know what I mean? Like here I am, right? It would have just been this. When this poor girl, they took her to the hospital, by the way. She wanted to do the event, against medical advice thing, and but the guy from the fire department was really very articulate, and he just said, you know what, this is going to work for 30 minutes, and when this wears off, you will be OD'd again, because that's what fent does. So many times now they'll administer this, and when they leave, 30 minutes later, the person just goes back out because the fent's going to be in there a couple hours. But they said to her, and when we get where we're going, they're going to stabilize you so that you're not in pain. You can watch the light bulb go on, right? She was like, oh,
yeah,
okay, I'll go.
yeah,
I thought
No,
whether or not that's the truth, it was really a good thing to say. There it is. See, my
that's
partner,
for
my
people that have
partner's
never
smarter
seen
than
it.
I am.
That's Narcan. That's a nasal dispensing tool of Narcan.
And they will give it to you anywhere these days. So
Yep.
go to a pharmacy and get at least one dose. Have one or two always.
They come in like that now. I think
Right.
there's 2
Mhm.
doses in there, but you
Yep.
you can get probably as much as you want. And I think what Tommy's got going on in his town is awesome, where they like put them on the telephone poles.
Yep. In
Oh, that's right.
downtown,
Yeah.
they've got them, and when you open them up in there, there'll be 6 to 8
Oh,
deals,
good.
and there's actually a little sign below that says "Take them." Like they're not worried about it. Somebody must be going by constantly because I've only seen it 4 times where I've been there, and every time I open it, it's stocked, and they have
That's great.
fent test strips, which is huge.
Oh,
That's
that's
another thing. That's one of the things that our government did with the unbelievable amount of money, $1/10 billion. They bought some test strips and 178,000 doses or whatever at Narcan. But I just the other day I was just looking. Narcan as of next year will have 2 milligrams more per administration. So all of the doses are going to be stepped
Sick.
up a little bit higher, which is a good thing.
That's
I think the lowest one you get right now is 4, and I think it's going to step it up to 6 for the lowest.
Correct. They're going to step it up because I remember when I first started when I first became aware of Narcan, and I had some around because I hung out with a lot of people who used every day. You could only do it with a needle. They didn't have the nasal yet, and it was 2 milligrams. Those doses were 2 milligrams, and they've discontinued it completely because of fent. That's where we're at. But
it's so
Heather,
sad that they had to do that.
I really hope that everybody that hears us today, I hope that more people do what you're doing. I think that it's intimidating, right, to come out here and to start a channel to talk about quilting, right, to talk about automobiles, whatever you're talking about. It's intimidating to sit in front of a camera, but to open up about your past and to talk about things like this is a really tall order. And I remember my brother starting his channel, and there was 12, I think, pepper channels. Now there's 3,500 or 4,000 or something like that. I would like to see more of what we do. There are channels that don't want to see people start because they feel like it's competition. I wish that the 3,000 people on the lifeboat all had a channel.
Exactly.
That would be
the more
amazing.
people that do this. So we're really happy that you're doing this, Heather.
Yeah, it's amazing when we see people do stuff like this, and I think this might be the first one, Tommy.
It is the first one that we've had a lot of people talk about it. But
Right.
The first one that has actually pulled the trigger and done this. And you know something? You're articulate and you have a real handle on this. You've got more time in this than I do. I mean, I did dope for 30 some odd years, but I didn't start really trying to figure out what all this was all about from this side of it until about 8.5 years ago. So yeah, bring the knowledge, and for the love of God, we'll send everybody this way. We really will. This is
You can
such a good thing.
you can get Narcan for free too, guys. They don't usually charge you for it anymore. A lot of
Yeah,
places.
in this state, and here's the thing, real quickly, before I forget, because I scroll off. If the pharmacies where you're at do not give out Narcan, then look up a needle exchange program. You do not have to give up any, needles or do anything else, but every needle exchange program in the U.S. will give you Narcan. So if you go into any of them, and there was a time in America where if you went to a needle exchange program, they were taking pictures of your license plates and doing all of that. Those days are so long gone. Don't be intimidated or any of that. You gotta, get this stuff. I felt like such an idiot today. I can't tell you. I'm in there this poor girl tomorrow is just going to be,
Sore.
Unbelievably bruised from what I did to her to keep her breathing.
She's gonna have it tomorrow, though, Tommy.
What's that? Yeah, exactly. That's the guy. I said that one of the guys in the truck, because they got her in there, and the guy came over and gave me a handshake. I said, "Boy, she's going to be hurting tomorrow." He said, "Yeah, well, she came really close to not hurting."
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Her lips were blue, dude. I mean, she was
blue. I could not wake her, and she's also really lucky that my arm didn't go through there. Because if I would have broken a window with the door open on the other side, I would have really felt like an idiot. But
right.
Yeah.
Yep. She's got another day now and another chance. Sometimes
what's sad is that the statistics on the number of people who get Narcan back, and then later on, the next time it doesn't work. It's astounding how many people don't get the message after almost dying. It's absolutely frightening, but that's unfortunately, that's the world we're in, and we need more people like you. I mean, that really is. If this is not going to get fixed at the government level, it's not going to get fixed at the Border Patrol level. None of those things are going to. This is what's going to do it. It's
exactly.
People that say, "I'm here if you need me." Don't suffer in silence. Like these messages, there just are not enough people that are willing to do this. So it's wow, we're so proud that you're doing this for real. We were talking about it before we got on the air with you together, and it's just Heather, this is awesome. It really is.
It really truly is. I think this is really what the goal of what we do anyway. It's to help people, and then watch the people we help people.
That's right. Start a fire and watch that thing spread.
Yep.
Truthfully.
What
part of Utah are you in? I know that this is off subject, but what part of Utah?
Right in the middle.
Right in the middle.
Just right in the middle. It's a real place. It's called Richfield.
How far from Moab?
Moab. Let's see, maybe 3 hours to Moab from here. It's about 2.5 to Salt Lake.
All right,
from where I am, and about 3 from St. George. So I mean, we're really just right in the middle. And
I had a big office in St. George at one time in my life. Big one. We had about 130 people down there on a sales floor, and I wore a suit every day and went down there and did heroin in the parking lot. But yeah, I spent a lot of time in that part of the world. I lived in Salt Lake for almost a decade. So
it's funny how we do that. Our minds straight. When she said Utah, that's probably what you did, right?
Oh yeah,
right there.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
And you probably hadn't thought about that forever.
No, I had so many flashbacks right at the beginning of this when I got the link sent over. I put you in. I have a sister named Heather. I've got about 4 people I'm working with named Heather. So I put Utah Heather. And just as I was typing it in, yeah, you're right, Mark. And it's kind of the nature of what we do, isn't it? You can be driving down the street, everything's groovy, and you'll see something that just instantly you're back. Alan Ballantyne is a guy from the channel that we've interviewed a few times, and Alan, I think, probably did the best job describing this. He was talking about a train station in Australia, and he was walking by it in the memory of the last time he was there. He was calling his family to say, yeah, the person's not here. I don't know what's going on. I'm waiting on the train, because he was waiting for his dope to be delivered. And he said he cannot walk by that train, that anytime he sees that station, he's right back there. And that's just one of those things when you sober up, it's so often you'll right in the middle of a normal day, just thinking about something, and then you'll remember some day that seems so innocuous. you were sitting in a parking lot waiting on something, and instantly your head's there. It's an amazing thing, the power of the mind. You know,
Yeah.
when it's working against you, it's pretty tough. But boy, when you can get it going in the right direction, there's nothing you can't do.
And
Yeah.
that's 100%. You know,
Yep.
I think you're going to bring a unique perspective, though. Honestly, it's going to be refreshing to hear somebody that is going through and continuing to go through massive amounts of pain, do other things to try to, instead of just going straight to the opiate.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that's where you were at. I mean, you had to be at some point because we just didn't have the knowledge back then. If you've been clean for 14 years, then I definitely think that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Isn't fibromyalgia? Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't that like how they diagnose that? Is there any kind of? I don't think they can they? Like,
There's
The
not like a
problem is-
blood test or something really definitive, but there are, if you have pain in certain points along your body, that's one of them. You know, chronic fatigue is a big part of it. You know, there's just
Right.
kind of a list of things. And if you're experiencing some of those, they will usually diagnose you.
One of the hardest things about my understanding, one of the hardest things about fibromyalgia is that it's just like addiction was 10 years ago. As of this point, you can't go in and take a test, right? So you go in and you describe it and the doctor says you got fibromyalgia. Yeah. The problem with that is they just think that there are a lot of people out there who are malingering or people who are trying to get, meds, because since you can't test for it, you get people, and you got to know there are people abusing that because that's the nature of who we are, right? So it waters down for all the people who are really hurting. It's got to be very difficult dealing with doctors with something that can't be tested. That's got to be a real struggle. So what are you doing now for pain? Is it NSAIDs or is it herbals, or what are you doing?
I've started using medical marijuana at night.
Okay.
I mean, I know that sounds crazy as an addict, but
no, actually it doesn't.
I have had to do something,
No,
because if I can't sleep at night, then my body can't.
This because this is an area I think that we confuse people on.
Mhm.
Our fight has been from day one with addiction, and there are a lot of people who use cannabis to deal with pain, and that's not something we got an issue with. I mean, that's never been something we have an issue with. If my option was pain or cannabis, believe I'd be doing cannabis. But as a recreational, and I hate that term, but I'm against anything that you do recreationally. That's kind of my thing, because I watch where it ends up. Recreational is just another word for I'm about to be an addict.
Yep.
It's always heading in that direction. But no, if that's working for you, excellent. That's
it's kind of like the opiate thing too. I mean, there's people out there that can handle being on opiates.
And there are people out there that are going to have to get addicted because the other option is pain for the rest of their time on this planet.
Exactly.
And we're not the people. I mean, Mark and I talk about this all the time on the air. We're not the guys that say, just go home and hurt like hell for the rest of your time on this planet, because if you use an opiate, you're evil. Our thing is, no one's evil, period, for doing drugs. But if you're using the drugs to get high or to self-medicate your brain, then there's an issue. Yeah. But if you need pain meds, then you need pain meds. That there's a reason we have these receptors in our body, and I'm of the firm belief that God doesn't make a lot of mistakes, right? So it's there's a reason they're in there. I can't use them, but there are people out there that need to.
I'm not sure if you can see the chat, Heather. I'm not sure if you can or not.
Oh yeah, I haven't been looking at it, but.
Well, no, if you would indulge me here, I'll read what Rip Curl said, because
please.
He basically said what Tommy just said. There's nothing wrong with that, especially if it allows you to live a normal, productive life and it isn't harming you or others. And
Amen.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so that's good. So that's working for you then.
Yeah. Well, my husband came to me, and because he was always against it. We're both from the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. So, there's a lot of things we just don't do. And he was really against the medical marijuana for a long time. But he saw what I was going through. and he was talking to some people that he works with, and they were telling him, about either their wives or their mothers or whomever was using it, and they were just telling him the difference it made in their lives. And he came to me and said, "I want you to try it." And
Good for him.
it's been really good. I mean, it's I don't take it to get high. There are some days I don't have to take it at all. But I have to be able to sleep, and there's a point where if your pain level, I don't know, for me, if my pain level crosses a certain point, I can't think, I can't function. And so I'm very grateful that it's an option here in Utah, and that I can use it, and it's very helpful. But I was, for a couple of months before I had the diagnosis, I kind of knew, that it was probably fibromyalgia. And I just, for a week, just cried all week because I've seen people that have it, and and they don't take care of themselves. I've seen what it does to you. There's just really no point in living at that point, if you let yourself go like that. And I just, I didn't doubt it, but I just was so upset that this was going to be my life, and that this pain was always going to be there. And it was very discouraging. But I've learned, there's a lot of things that I do now, especially not believe how much that helps. It took me a few months to get past the point where I was, in shape enough that it wasn't causing me more pain. But once I crossed that threshold, wow. I mean, it's such a difference.
God bless your husband.
And,
Yeah.
God bless your
real.
husband.
Wow.
As I was saying earlier on, I spent a lot of time in living in Utah, and as a skier, even when I didn't live there, I spent a lot of time there. It was just one of those places that you end up a lot. Great snow, best snow on earth. That's not just a license plate. That's the truth. But there's definitely a culture there that frowns really heavily on anything like that. So you really got lucky. He's a good man. That's a beautiful thing. So do you have more success eating it, or or smoking it? What works best for you?
I use, if you take the edibles, for me that takes probably 45 minutes to an hour and a half before it'll take effect. And so
Right.
if I'm really, really bad, then I will use a vape, or I also have, you can just take the flower and put it in a vaporizer.
Right.
And so it's not smoke, it's just it vaporizes. And that's almost instant, in about 10 minutes is when it really will take effect. So if I'm in a bad way, I'll do that. If I can wait, then I just do especially at night, I'll do the edibles, because then you've got about 6-7 hours, where
Right.
you're out of pain. And yeah, I've just kind of tried it all. And then topical, that's very helpful as well.
It does prove our point about the fastest way to get something into your body, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Nothing works faster than getting something in there through your lungs. That's definitely the fastest delivery method.
I was at a local nature store one day, and there was a sales rep in there. I don't know who this guy was, but because I was looking for stuff to help me with my pain, because I'd been in recovery probably 7-8 years at that point, and I still have massive amounts of pain. It's just something I'm going to deal with.
Wow.
But anyway, so I go to the nature store, and luckily this guy was in there, the sales rep. He came out from the back and dumped a half a bottle of CBD oil on my skin, on my neck. He said, "Here," he said, "take about 6 of these drops under your tongue." I was like, "Dude, that sounds like a lot." He said, "It's a pretty high dose, but I bet you by the time you get home, you ain't feeling no pain." And he said, he said what helped me the most. Yeah, it was the first time in a while I had any kind of pain relief, and it was.
Oh, wow.
And he said it was most likely from the topical because he put so much on there. He said at that point they were working on trying to get it a little bit more potent, so people wouldn't have to put so much on their skin.
Uh-huh.
Obviously they've got creams now you can get any. It's in
Yeah.
everything. You can get it in any
Yeah.
form you want now. But
The
you know, yeah,
I'm an absolute proponent of using it for medical purposes. There are people, and I saw one in the comment section that believes that there's absolutely no cons, that it's only pros. And the truth of the matter is, I disagree with that. What you're doing, I think, is fantastic, and I think that, and I'm not even bummed out with people who do this as opposed to alcohol or something. That this is just something that's a relaxed thing. But there are people for whom this destroys, and I've worked with, a lot of them that cannot stop. And the problem with this substance for me is that if you pick crack as your drug of choice, or you pick methamphetamine or heroin or benzos, you're going to rock bottom, right? It's a guarantee. It may take you a month, it might take you a year, but you're going to hit rock bottom, and that rock bottom is either going to be, going to a rehab or ending up in prison or something like that, because those drugs take you there. I know people who smoked pot for 45 years, and there's never a rock bottom, but these are people that couldn't get off the couch to take care of the greatest dreams in the world and the greatest ambitions that they just couldn't pull the trigger on. And obviously the way you're using it, you're working, you're doing everything, but I know people that just, with that, it absolutely saps the ambition out of. But but from a medical standpoint, boy, it's doing a hurt to the to big pharma, and I'm a big fan of anything that that puts a hurt to big pharma. Really am. So yeah, I think it definitely has a place. Where I live, my favorite Chinese restaurant is now a dispensary. So they're all over the city. We're one of the first places, I think, on this part of the country where they have the equivalent of bars, where you can now go in and it's just a place to go and smoke and hang out. And funny thing is, a lot less violence, a lot less crime, than their counterparts with booze. You see a lot less violence and that kind of thing, which is a bonus.
Yeah.
But, I think the way I view that is exactly like what you said, and I think the biggest pro for me as far as with marijuana and stuff, if they do, like legalize it everywhere, at that point it now becomes controlled. So the dosage and things are all the same. You know what you're getting when you get it. There is none of this sprinkling, fentanyl on it and killing people. Those are all pros to that. But I also agree with what Tommy said as far as it, there are some cons. It's like you said, lack of motivation is a big one.
And not for everybody. You know what I mean? There are
Exactly.
Steve Jobs of the world, and there are people for whom this is not an issue. But it's like anything else. Statistically speaking, research says that roughly 10% of anybody that tries anything is not going to be able to handle it the way the rest of society will. And of that 3% should just not do it, because they're not going to control it. They're going to be, the addictions. And this is, it's been really interesting, because the countries that have gone full legal, right? The countries that have just taken the regulations off of every single substance on the planet, what they find is there's an initial uptake, right? Of people who go, holy crap, I'm not in any trouble. I'm going to go try this, this, and this. But after a few years of that wearing off, what they find is that about 3% of the population are going to be addicted to coke. About 3% are going to be addicted to, and all of those things have about a 3% pure out of control addiction rate, and then about 7% who just probably are a little bit over the top, but haven't hit that I can't live without it phase that the 3% hits. So no matter what the substance is, the vast majority of people can use it and handle it. But it's like alcohol. I mean, truthfully, you talk about a substance that probably ought to be scheduled. I mean, for real, you realize that this is an actual statistic. 50% of everybody murdered this year in the U.S. will be under the influence of alcohol. And 50% of people who kill will be under the influence of alcohol. So the violence that comes from that substance alone, and it's amazing because of how marijuana got treated. But if you really go back and look at it, the people that fought to make that stuff illegal weren't fighting because it got you high. They were fighting because it competed with polyester, which was an upcoming
it's money.
Hemp had to be eliminated, so they did it through the pot angle. Pretty sad.
And Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you had mentioned earlier, the pain receptors that we have throughout our bodies. Well, we also have a cannabinoid system throughout our bodies.
No question.
We were made to use that if it was needed, and for the government to do what they did, and push it as something so horrible, it just infuriates me. But it all comes down to money.
It does.
They want to make money off of something that is so much cheaper and so much better for you than chemicals and pharmaceutical things that they put together.
Well, it was DuPont and Goodyear were the real proponents for making it illegal, and it didn't have anything to do with the psychoactive properties. But how do you make hemp illegal so that you don't have anything to compete with? Well, there's a part of that that gets you high. That was the end of it right there. And the funny thing is, or not funny, haha, but they made it illegal under the narcotic law. And in order to be a narcotic, something has to be habit forming, and they mean that in the physical sense of the word, not the mental addiction. And it has to be there has to be an overdose, like you can die from taking too much of it. So it didn't meet the criteria in any way to make it a Schedule II narcotic, but they pushed that through anyway, and that was definitely the politics end of it. But so glad to hear that's working for you. And I'm telling you what, hats off to your husband. That's huge.
You're leaps and bounds ahead of the game when you got somebody like that close to you, supporting you, and able to do that. Because it helps you. I would think that it would help you stay the course instead of bouncing off over here. At least it was for me. I can only speak from my own point. I can empathize, but I don't have fibromyalgia, so I can't sympathize with what you're actually feeling. We all know what pain is. You know what I mean? We all know what that is. But even a lot of people that hear us talk, they don't know or even understand the level of pain that a lot of us that became addicts were at and still there.
Yeah.
They don't understand that, and they never will, because I hope they don't, is what I'm trying to say.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's a hard thing for people, and I think just like with our government and stuff, I'm not going to get into that subject, but it's a knee-jerk reaction for somebody, and we did it as a nation when they were like, we don't live in a third world country, we shouldn't have no pain. What? Who made that decision? We know who did. We're not going to go there. I get it.
That was the 1990s for you.
Yeah.
Nobody should feel any pain at all.
With the little smiley faces, 1 to 10. Where you at on that chart? Who the heck is going to go to 1? Ain't nobody going to 1. They're going over here to at least 8. I mean, it's just what it is. But it really is, and that did really hyperactivate addictions. I mean, like, immediately. It was amazing because, obviously me and Tommy have studied this upside and down the other, and it's very, very clear in the data, in the stats, when this started, how fast it escalated. It's so easy to see.
There was a time in the 90s where 33% of adults had a pain prescription. 1 in 3.
Yep.
Because if you went in there and said, it's odd, I've been having cramping once. What you need is OxyContin. I had headaches. You need OxyContin. Like, they were pushing that so hard. And a lot of these doctors, it's easy to hindsight's always 20/20, but because of the literature and because this was such a new concept, they really did believe that this was, not going to be habit forming the way it was. They really believed that less than 1% of people. Somebody in the comment section the other day left a comment that said, everything.
They were telling all the doctors. The drug reps would come in and tell them, no, it's not addicting. And I mean, just made all these promises. And I don't know if the reps actually knew, but the company, those behind knew very well.
Three of those reps went to prison for really long sentences. What's odd is the 3 people at the top got misdemeanors, but their reps who worked for them got prison sentences. Yeah. Yeah,
and
crazy that whole thing. I'm going to stop talking because we could.
yeah, we're not going to stop talking about that. I mean, it's just not going to happen, because it's such a big part of what it is. And something that always puzzled me, and this is just a societal thing, that why in the '70s 7,000 people died from heroin overdoses, and they considered that like a huge, massive thing, and nobody considers it hardly even a thing except unless you're part of it, you know, today. And we're losing. I'm just going to say 200,000 at
Right.
least a year. If you guys put that in perspective, did you guys see what we did over the 911 attacks? Right, we started a war over that. How many
Yeah.
people were in that tower? Those two towers. It was under
Yeah.
4,000.
Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
I'm saying, yeah, it was like 3,000 something, if I'm correct there. And
Mhm.
I'm not getting into the conspiracy part of all that. I understand some people don't think it's actually happened that way or whatever, but the fact of the matter is we went to war over something that happened over 3,000 and some deaths, and society was okay with it.
Right.
Why are we just sitting here now and letting 200,000 of our own people die? At least, in my opinion, I think it's actually more than that, and and not doing enough. I mean, I see that there are steps being taken, and it is getting better. I think everybody can kind of see a little bit of a positive turn there. But at the same time, I seen an article today. Flamin' Jackson actually sent it to me. I'm not sure if you sent it to you too, Tommy. But L.A. is now like the biggest importers of fentanyl
It's the epicenter
Wow.
for the entire North American
cartels.
habit. Yeah.
The
The
cartels.
while we've been on, right, this has been a short little time that we've, but by their numbers, not ours, right. In the time that we've been on, 8 people have overdosed and died. So
Yeah.
it really has just become it's staggering. It really is. It's staggering. But it's kind of the nature of where we're at, and channels like this, doing what you're doing. Honestly, the hope for this is not going to come from our government or anybody else's, and it's not gonna get fixed any other place but people changing how they view this. There are so
Yeah.
many people in this world who hide to use these substances, and one of the most dangerous aspects of this stuff is because people do it alone, and they do it behind dumpsters, and they do it in places where there's nobody. They're
Yeah.
they're ashamed to say I have a problem because of the stigma that's been attached to drug addiction, and it's that
Yeah.
stigma, I think, kills as many people as the substance itself.
I would
I
agree.
agree. Yeah.
And
No,
I think you're going to bring a really unique perspective too. Honestly, and I know you're not going to like focus on the addiction part of it. I get what you're doing and all that, and that's but I think you're going to talk about that also, and I think people need to hear what you
Yeah.
got to say when it comes to pain. I think people need to hear what you got to say when it comes to pain versus addiction and all the things together. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Just knowing you from the chat and stuff, yeah, I think this is going to be a good thing for you and everybody
Well,
else.
and being a professional, right, who's in that sort of in that arena anyway, if you can remove the stigma of cannabis as a way to treat these things, man, I would much rather see people using cannabis to treat
Yeah.
this than using opiates.
Yeah, I completely agree. There are, that's what I want to share with people is, there's so many little things that you can do and they all add up. And, I'm so tickled you were able to save that girl today because,
Yes.
it's, boy, when you're trying to treat pain, whether it's emotional or physical or whatever, you know, and you're using opiates and you're abusing opiates, I mean, you lose so much hope. And there's no joy, when you are just trying to get from hour to hour and not be in pain and not be in withdrawals. I mean, how is that living? How is that? There's no hope, there's no joy, but, and getting into recovery is not easy, and it's not easy to stay that way either. but the alternative, I just want people to understand that you can live with this pain. You can deal with all this. You can work through all this stuff, and you can find happiness. I mean, you can find real joy in this life still. Even with all of the shame and everything that you deal with as an addict. I want people to understand there is so much life to still experience. There's joy to be felt, and there's people you can help, and there's relationships you can mend. And I mean, life is definitely worth the struggle. It really is. And I want addicts and people with chronic pain to understand that there's a lot of joy in life. There really is.
And the stigma of the way that people get off. If you've been watching the boat, you know that. So there's a lot of people that have written to me about trying to get off of Suboxone and what a difficult thing it is to titrate off of it. And I don't remember the exact day, but it's been within a month that I started to titrate down. And I have nothing against this substance at all. I'm not titrating off of it for any other reason than to show that it can be done. Literally, I don't intend to stay off of it because it works so well for me. But today was the first day that I didn't do a thing. So today has been the first day in years now with no Suboxone, and I just did it how they tell you. I just kept titrating down. It was like I was telling my bobbleheaded partner. He said, any adverse, and I said, well, I'm grumpy. There's a part of me that I don't really feel any different. It's just that my fuse is a little shorter today. I think that, and like I said, the first time I have a temptation of any kind, I've got it sitting and waiting, because I'm not ever I would rather be on that for the rest of my life than be on something else. And I don't get any kind of buzz off of it. But boy, if you've ever been on the boat, when we do a show on Suboxone, the number of people who will show up and tell me I'm a dirtbag for doing it, and that's among people who are on drugs, right? People who are in recovery still look down their nose at anyone that uses medical assisted treatment, which is just astounding to me. So I guess some of them might respect me for the next week or so until I decide.
And something I've noticed even with myself, I had to stop because I was so far removed from my initial recovery. I started to forget what I had went through. I never forgot, but I didn't remember the severity of it, is what I'm trying to say. I always knew that there was issues or whatever there, but to get that far, you're 14 years, so I'm sure you probably have experienced some of those same things. Tommy, the same way. There's a time where I used to walk down the mall with my wife and be like, drug addict, meth addict, opiate addict. I point at people.
I try not to.
I do it in my head, but I try not to speak it. You know what I mean? You can't help what you think. I mean, I'm not saying that. But you can definitely, when I started doing that, my wife's like, why do you keep doing that? You used to be one of those people. I was like, okay. I was like, that's a smack in the face without touching me.
Right,
I mean,
reality.
A little reality check there. And I was like, well, thank you for saying that, because I didn't realize that I was doing it that often, And it takes that from our loved ones. They need to tell us that stuff. And anybody out there listening that's a loved one, say it. And anybody out there that's an addict in recovery, be willing to listen to it and not get mad.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry. I get a little passionate about those kinds of things.
No, it does. I've been at that point before where I forgot. And, and I love what you always tell us, Tommy, about journals. Such a good tool. And I can always go back now and read, through the hell that I was in and the hell I was putting my family through and my husband. And I mean, this destroyed my first marriage, and I'm just very blessed with the guy I have now. We've been together almost 18 years. But I've got a good man.
He sounds like an ace, by the way. Sounds like you got a good one.
I really do. He's wonderful. He really is. And Something I wanted to ask you both. We've got just a few more minutes, but um, what would you tell if someone who is not an addict asked you, how can I help my loved one? What would your answer be? I think it's very different for everybody, but
You want to go first? You want me to?
Go ahead.
What do I tell people that I think needs to get help? Is that what you're asking?
uh-huh. Or even just someone that their loved one is an addict, whether they're recovering or not. What is an important thing to do to help?
Okay. The first thing I would say is recognize where they're at in their age, because it's going to be different, in
Yeah.
my opinion. If it's an adult, and if it's somebody that you like, your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad, or just somebody, one of your good friends, there's a way to handle it. And then if it's your child, there's a whole other way you have to handle it, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I think we always have to remember we're parents first, friends second when it comes to our kids. Um,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to talk about it. That's the biggest thing. The communication, and Tommy talks about that all the time. Connection is the winning tool against addiction. So you're not going to have a connection with your child unless you start to build it, because they're not going to come to you. I can promise you that. You're going to have to go to them.
Yeah.
At least the initial, part of it. But when you're talking to an adult, one of the biggest things you can do is to start sowing little seeds and watch them grow, because you don't have to beat somebody over the head. If you beat somebody over the head, you're going to knock them out, and they're not going to want to talk to you at all. And but there's also a
Yeah.
time and place where the hard love has to be there, but people have to hit the bottom, and sometimes all you have to do is point it out to them. And
Yeah.
most of the time, that's really where it comes from. And you just point, hey, you're doing this. This is what I see. If you want my help, I'm here to help you. I'm not going to beat you over the head, but just know that this is what you're doing, and you don't have to do this by yourself. I'm here with you. All those cliche things that everybody says. Well, they're cliches for a reason, because they work, they apply. That's why they're
Yeah.
cliches. um, and that's just how you would have to do it, in my opinion. Now, again, I think that there are times where you got to smack somebody awake, but you don't stay there. you know you might smack them, but then you stick your hand out and help them get back up. That's how I look at it.
I like that.
When somebody's really, really bad. Now, if it's, again, like I said, I think it's an individual thing, and that's a very hard question.
I know.
Uh, but just give them options. That's
Hmm.
that's the biggest thing for me. Go. Hey, I'll show you this. Just start sending them links, like videos or whatever that you think could help, and don't even say nothing in the link. Just send them the link and just leave it alone. Don't talk to them about it or nothing if you don't want to. But
Yeah.
they're probably going to at least click on it and see the title, so
Hmm.
they're going to know. So you don't really have. Sometimes you don't have to say nothing, and a lot of times they're going to come to you eventually. So anyway, that's how I handle it.
I like
For
that. Thank
me,
you.
if when I'm talking to somebody who's not been in the life and they have somebody that they care about that has, the first thing that I try to tell them is that they're not going to be able to help this person as much as they would love to, and as much as every bone in their body says I can fix this, they can't. The reason
Yeah.
is the only people that have ever demonstrated that they can help addicts are other addicts. And it's such a difficult thing for a family member because it's so counterintuitive. I love this person so much, I have to be able to help them. The best thing
Yeah.
that you can do for them is understand that what they're going through is not a defective character. What they're going through is not because they're a bad human being or any of those things that society tells you. And it's not because their parents screwed up. It's not because any of those stupid things that society's been telling us forever. This person has a medical condition, right? We wouldn't crap on anybody that has diabetes, but we will crap all over anybody that has a problem with substances. So
Yeah.
if you're a loved one, get them to somebody else. And it's going to be difficult, but they're going to speak a language that you don't speak. That when someone really wants to help someone, the first thing they think is, you got clean once. Why the hell would you have started again? Well, that's not
Yep.
something that you can explain, right? There's no way to
Yeah.
explain that. But if you come to some place like your channel right? Or you come to some place like the boat and you say, yeah, I was clean for 2 years and then I started using again. Nobody goes, well, why in hell did you do that, right? Because we all
Yeah,
understand
we
why they
get
did
it.
it. You know, they were
Yeah.
uncomfortable in their own skin. So it's essential that these
Yeah.
people realize that if they want to help their loved one, they're going to drive them to a meeting, or they're going to get them onto a channel or a group. They're going to get them around other addicts who have gotten sober. Because when you're in the life and you feel like there's absolutely no hope, you can't come up with that feeling of it's possible for me to get sober. The only way they're ever going to believe that is if they see Mark, or they see you, or they see somebody that was so lost, and now here they are, and they're not, a bank robber, right, that has a sobriety channel. They can go, holy hell, if this guy can do this, then I can. And that's what has worked since 1930, right? When those two guys got together and said, if you don't let me drink tomorrow, I won't let you drink tomorrow, right? That was it.
Yeah.
Prior to that, medical community, everybody else failed. It took two addicts to say this is possible. So if you love somebody and they're not able to do this, get them to people who are like them and watch what'll happen, and then just support them and try to understand. And it's going to be hard. If they're smart, they will then go to a meeting to talk to just people like themselves, right? They'll go
Yeah.
to a meeting of like Narcan or any of those where you go and talk to other people who went through exactly what you're going through, and you know what they'll find? They're going to heal because they're around people who are healing. But you
Yeah.
have to be with your own. And addicts, we speak a different language and we live in a
Yep.
different world. And it's literally like, you're just spitting into the wind if you think that you can cure someone of a disease that you don't understand. It's just
Yeah,
kind of the way it is.
exactly. Again, those things that I just said is exactly what I would say to somebody else that's getting help, that wants to help somebody else.
Yeah.
Whether it's you doing it or you're trying to instruct somebody that's never done it before, it's kind of, I don't know. That's a very, very good question, and I think all of us handle it different. What do you think about that? I mean, I think that's because I think that we have to be individualized in a certain way anyway, because who I can reach might not be who Tommy can reach, and who Tommy can reach might not be who I can reach. But
Yeah.
we got to be able to direct people that direction. If you realize
Yep.
you're not helping, then get somebody else involved.
Yeah.
Tommy said that. That's why I wanted to repeat it, because that's probably the best advice I could give anybody on that end of it.
If you knew how many times I'll get an email from somebody, right, who's 5 days sober or whatever, and they will say, I was in the comment section and something Leisure wrote, right, or something that somebody other than us, we sit there and just do this all day long, and they will go in the comment section and they'll read a comment and the light bulb goes on, and they go, holy hell, and they keep coming back because of what's going on in the chat. You never know. There's an old cliche that you can't say the wrong thing to the right person, and you can't say the right thing to the wrong person.
Yeah.
Very often people just, I can talk till I'm blue in the face, but if somebody shows up at a group meeting and they get all of this from so many different people, the odds that, like Mark just said, it may not be me and it may not be Mark. It might be you. It might be Leisure. It might be, Seventh Son. It could be any of the people that, Leisure Beast, any of the people in the group who's come there and just let them, their soul out. That's usually when magic happens. It's not something that anybody can predict, but it's always going to be somebody in the life. You just can't help somebody if you haven't been there.
Yeah, and I think that's key. I think I do, because I really do. That's something I didn't say that I agree with 100%. Because how can you help somebody that to get to where we're at if you've never felt what we feel, or because then all you're doing, you're leaning on those cliches, and then that's really what I don't know. I just think it comes. I think we get saved more by our peers than we do our, the people that are above us. That kind of.
Yeah. I completely agree. Well, gentlemen, I know that Mark has to go and I've got to get back to work, but thank you. Thank you so much for coming on and for being so patient with me. I appreciate it. I hope that I can have you back again, because I want to hear your stories. I want to hear what started it for both of you. I like to hear people's stories. It's just
We'll come back.
So I'm
100% we'll come back. I mean, there's no doubt.
Anytime you want, I'd be happy to come back. We're so proud that you're doing this, honestly. Yep. And you know what? You got a good turnout. I mean, for a first live feed to see 2 digits, that's
in the live chat. Yeah, that's pretty good.
That is good stuff.
That doesn't happen
the first time around.
And that tells you how good our crew is, because they support.
There's an awesome crew at the lifeboat.
No question.
Awesome.
The best of us. The best of us are all in there. I love everybody. I really do.
Right.
What a great group of people. They keep me sober every day.
Yes, I agree. Me too.
Yeah, there's no coincidence that the lifeboat popped into my feed. Just like there's no coincidence where you parked your car in the Walmart parking lot this morning. You know?
Yeah, you're right.
That's.
Yep.
Anyway,
this has been great. It has been an honor. I'm telling you.
Yes,
I'd be happy to come back anytime, and I know Mark feels the same way. Great job.
Yes. Awesome.
Thank you so much. Well, and to everybody in chat, thank you for joining with us, and hang in there, because I promise you that life is good. Oh, he's got the cat in the basket.
That's right, baby. That's right.
Everybody have a great
today. She's a hard-working cat.
Well, thank you once again, and everyone have a great evening, and I'll be back.
Yes.
You better be.
Thank you.
We'll see the crew in about 2 hours.
We'll see you all on the boat.
Yep.
God bless.
See you guys.
Okay. Well, talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.
You can probably end the show live stream. I'm not sure if you could. You want us to leave? That don't matter.
I got a guy that does this for me. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Right.
Yeah. Do it however you do it. If we get cut off, we get cut off.
Okay, I think I got it now.